Stephen's trying to do me in.
You get more room now.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. First one's the executive session of April 26, 2010. There's a motion made by Mr. Duffy, seconded by Mr. Iavino. All those in favor say aye. No one opposed. Under the approval of minutes for the regular session of April 26, 2010, a motion to accept those minutes. Motion made by Mr. Winslow, seconded by Mr. Furio. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? No. Next, we'll open this up to public comment. So anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on items of the agenda, just state your name and address. Just the one member in the audience. Not to put you on the spot, but it does not have a public comment. So not seeing anyone else, that item is now closed. Fourth item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start out with some accomplishments of note over the course of the past few weeks. First of all, over the past month, the Forestdale School has raised nearly $2,000 for Haiti relief efforts through a silent auction and cookie dough sales. The dollars raised will be split among Partners in Health, Save the Children, and the Red Cross. And I'd just like to give special thanks to Leah Levy, who coordinated the initiative at the Forestdale School. Also another Forestdale note, special thanks are in order to Rick Malatesta, who organized the first college week at the Forestdale School, which included a variety of activities, including a field trip for the entire 6th grade class to Harvard University, where they took a tour, had lunch, and received some early college information session. And special thanks again to Rick Malatesta for that work. A couple of important data notes that are of interest, some nice achievements. Data from the College Board and the Massachusetts Math and Science Initiative have indicated that Malden High School has, for the second year in a row, the first or second largest growth in advanced placement student enrollments in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So that's 2 years in a row we were ranked either first or second for the increase in the number of students taking AP classes. And data from the College Board has also indicated that Malden High School has the highest number of registrations for the College Board's Early College and Career Exploration website. And this is as a result of the efforts of the Guidance Department with the Grade 10 PSAT Outreach Initiative, which they conducted in collaboration with the English Department. So I'd just like to give special congratulations to Dana Brown, Principal of Malden High, to Manjula Karamchedi, who's Director of the Guidance Department, and to Jane Skelton, who's Director of English Language Arts, and to all the faculty and staff involved in both of these AP and College Board initiatives. Some more accomplishments I'd like to share. First of all, the Zonta Club of Malden had an essay contest to celebrate Women's International Day, and the first place winner was Naomi Brill. The second place winner was AJ Ananakrishnan. The third place winner was Rachel Eaglin, and all of them are fourth graders at the Linden School. So special thanks and congratulations are in order for Dr. Angelica Hart, principal of Linden, and to all the fourth grade teachers on this terrific accomplishment. On a roll here. Some recognition for Beebe School is in order. The Beebe School's kindergarten program has met all of the National Association for the Education of Young Children's early childhood program standards, and as a result has been awarded the NAEYC accreditation for early childhood. This is not an easy accreditation to achieve. It has been achieved by the Early Learning Center and now Beebe School, and all of our schools are working to achieve this accreditation, and I'd like to give thanks and some acknowledgement to Sue Vadalara and to all of her kindergarten teachers who played an important role in earning this accreditation. And another note for Beebe School is that Three students, Leslie Ta, Alexander Karstensen, and Ivan Williams, have all been selected as semifinalists in the Law Day Essay Contest at the Cambridge Juvenile Court. All of the semifinalists and their families and teachers have been invited to the court on this Friday to participate in the annual Law Day event. And congratulations to all of those kids. And my final note of recognition I'd like to give to a member of our school committee who is serving as a terrific example of what it means to be a lifelong learner for all of our kids in the Malden Public Schools. And this tip of the hat is to Mr. Kevin Duffy, school committee member. Kevin, on June 8th, will be awarded the Master's in Business Administration with a focus on leadership from St. Joseph's College in Maine. And when I heard about that, I just wanted to give a little tip of the hat to Kevin and thank him for being such a good symbol of lifelong learning for all of our kids. And that's it. Now, in terms of the budget update, which is next on the agenda item, as all of the folks know, and we have discussed, and as I wrote in my memorandum for this meeting, we do not have any additional budget information regarding the FY11 budget. At the same time, I have submitted, business manager Irene Oliver has submitted the updated FY10 budget data, and if anyone has any questions about that, I'm sure she and I would be happy to entertain any questions at this point. Question? Okay. All right, then I'll move forward. Just a couple of other notes, really, on this evening's report. I'm very, very pleased to report that the technology upgrade at Forestdale and Linden schools will go forward this summer. This is something we were quite worried about in terms of generating sufficient revenue, and the mayor has assured me that the $549,963 required to bring those schools up to par with the other K-8 schools in the district is forthcoming, and the upgrade in technology will take place this summer. So plans are already underway to make sure that happens and proceeds quite well. And then finally, just a not so good note, but the Title I funds that we had originally been told, the race to the top Title I funds, I should say, in the amount of about $270,000. We had originally been told that it was likely to be an entitlement. It is not an entitlement. It is now attached to the Race to the Top application. Massachusetts is submitting a second application, having not received Race to the Top funds in the first round. That application will be submitted in June. We hope to receive notification that Massachusetts has won recognition and that those funds would be available in either September or October. But they will not be available unless we win that award. By the same token, they are supplemental funds. I do not see that they are going to seriously crimp any plans that we had in place. We were just hoping to receive them to expand the work that we're currently doing, but I actually met with our Title I director today, and I think that we're at least on the Title I side of things, in good stead in terms of moving forward with our Title I initiatives for next year. So, but we do hope to have a shot at that money in the fall. So that's it for my report for this school committee meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. Any questions from the committee on the items that Mr. Smith mentioned? Ms. Crow.
Superintendent, just about the race to the top. Now, I know you've been really very involved with the state on. Do they get feedback from the first one that why we didn't get it? Are we addressing that? And what are the plans going forward? And again, since we don't have to re-sign a commitment, but if they're making major changes, what those might be?
The state is in the process. As a matter of fact, I'm involved in one of the committees involved in rewriting the application. We did receive very explicit feedback from the federal government about where we lost points, and we're working to fill those gaps. The signatures that the school committee, the mayor, I, and the union gave for the first round of applications hold okay. They still hold solid for the second round, though we do have the right to withdraw from the second round application once the actual contents of that have been released and we've had an opportunity to read them, to read the application. I think that I'm quite confident that the application is still moving forward in the direction the first application did, with the intent of trying to plug some some holes in the dike, so to speak. I think the biggest concern that the Commonwealth faces right now is the withdrawing on the part of the AFT from support of the application, and decisions that the DESC is going to have to make in terms of how they're going to move forward if the AFT continues to not support the initiative.
And for the second round of the RTTT, do you have any sense of how many states, how many awardees they're planning on, or?
Excellent question. $64,000 question. They expected. Actually, it's multi-million. Yeah, $270,000.
Yeah,
$270,000 question as far as we're concerned. But no, they had really anticipated 5 or 6 states to get funded the first round, and only 2 got funded. So nobody really knows.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Superintendent Smith, one of the main reasons why our application, the state's application, wasn't approved had to do with the fact, at least in some measure, a good deal measure, that the Massachusetts did not approve, was not on board with regard to the standards being developed by the RTTT, simply because our standards were higher. Do you feel that they're going to use that as a hammer against us again in this round?
Well, actually, the DESC is in conversations with the federal government on how to plug that hole so that they don't lose those points. That was, as you're right, that cost us about 4 or 5 places in the ranking just because of that one issue. By the same token, and that's actually the committee that I am serving on is examining that. We are trying to maintain the position that we reserve the right to defer our judgment until the standards have been released, and we're looking for a way where we can sign on and then exceed those standards, but not have to regress in any way with the standards that we already have.
Thank you.
Mr. Furr.
Smith, just one question. Is there anything in the works to fix the roof at the Linden School before over the library before they install the new computers? Because they have to cover the computer. You're aware they have to cover the computers.
Right. Well, that's been, as you know, an enduring issue for quite a while. And to date, they've really just been kind of stopgap measures that have been put into place, to slow down the problem. It is a conversation that Mr. Melanson and I have a few times each year. I think at this point in time, we're still following a patching approach. We're not really. There are, I think, some real fundamental structural issues that have not yet been taken care of, but we continue to talk about and advocate that they are taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the committee? No. We'll move on to item number 5, deliberations, subcommittee updates. Any subcommittee updates? Mr. Weldy.
The Bullying Prevention Task Force met about 2 weeks ago and also held a community forum last week to present the Malden Public Schools bullying policy draft to the public. We've spent a lot of time working on it. Special thanks to Heather and Peg and Lenny and John and Kevin, who have been helping a lot in this process, and thank you to Superintendent Smith for coming to the forum as well. We had a good turnout. We were able to gain a lot of community feedback about the policy, and we'll be bringing that policy to the school committee next Monday at our meeting to look at. We have one final meeting this Thursday night at 6 o'clock in the high school library. I'll announce it again during announcements, but that's where we stand.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Any questions for Mr. Weldy on bullying prevention? Great job on that, Mr. Weldy, and thank you for the initiative you're taking on such an important matter. Any other subcommittee updates? Mr. Winslow.
Yeah, we've had a couple. We've had a policy subcommittee up, and we have made a recommendation on the draft school calendar that's coming up on the agenda. And then the policy committee met jointly with the Buildings and Ground Committee. And right now, what we did was table the policy portion of the Jenkins proposal that was being drafted, and then we're deferring to the Buildings and Grounds on the rates. So Len can talk about that.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow. Any questions for Mr. Winslow on his comments? Question, Mr. Iavino? Okay, thank you, Mr. Winslow. Update from Mr. Iavino.
Just the Building and Ground Subcommittee, as Mr. Winslow alluded to, had a meeting, a joint meeting. We recessed our portion of the meeting, Building and Grounds did, and we are going to reconvene our meeting at the conclusion of the regular school committee meeting in an effort to clarify and to make some adjustments on the rates for the existing dates that were made prior to any of the rate settings for subsequent years. So we will be reconvening at the conclusion of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Iavino. Any questions for Mr. Iavino? Okay. Question, Mr. Winslow.
Len, do we want to hold the school committee meeting in recess while we resolve that one issue so we can pass those rates tonight? I guess I just want a clarification of what our intents are and that, so that we passed one motion in committee and then we had the second motion. We need to recess this meeting right now and to reconvene it? In that way we could pass the rates tonight and get that clarified. Is that your intention? I'm not sure, and I would have to accede to the superintendent on what Robert's rules would say about something like that, Superintendent.
From the chair, in discussing just briefly with Mrs. Smith, since it just happened, I think we need to give that information time, at least 48 hours to the public, knowing that these rules were made, these rates were made in a motion. Since we're meeting next Monday, I don't see why it cannot wait to go to the full chair if Mr. Iavino or Mr. Winslow would update us next Monday, and therefore we can take a vote at that time, since it just happened an hour ago.
Yeah, I would have no problem with that.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Iavino or Mr. Winslow on this topic? Okay. Any more updates from the subcommittees? Not seeing any, we'll go to item number 6, which is the consent agenda, the approval of the revised 2010-2011 school calendar. I'd like to defer this to Mr. Winslow for a brief explanation, and then to Mr. Smith.
This draft is the draft that was recommended by the policy committee. What the recommendation is that Rosh Hashanah, the first day, be recognized as a school holiday, and that was the modification from the draft that was sent back last time. So that's the modification we would be voting on this calendar.
Before Mr. Smith speaks, is there any questions on Mr. Winslow's comments in regards to the draft calendar, which you had in your packet? Mr. Weldy.
Just a point of information, just so the full committee knows, after that policy meeting, I believe both Kevin and I took these back to the respective congregations in Malden and made sure that they were all aware that this was happening, and there was no vocal opposition to it, as you can see tonight. So the outreach was made.
And I assume, Mr. Weldy, that this will be brought, once this calendar is voted upon, it will be brought maybe for next year to discuss this option.
I'm sure.
Maybe through policy or... So, thank you for your hard work. Mr. Smith, do you have any comments on the calendar?
Well, I do just have a single question that relates to what you just mentioned there, and that is whether or not this is a decision for this year only, or whether it is a decision that of a particular principle of supporting the first day of Rosh Hashanah and the first day of Yom Kippur as being days of recognition, or for the foreseeable future, or is this a decision for this coming school year alone?
Yeah,
Mr. Winslow.
My view on the decision is that it's really for this school year, and the thought is that we will, come September, seek to have a broader public forum on the calendar and what holiday should be in for the following school year. So that's the thought, is that this is the calendar for this year, and then come September we will have through the policy committee or whatever appropriate committee to have a broader discussion about what holidays and no test days are appropriate. So that's the thought. So this is a 1-year shot for this year, if I am characterizing people's intents correctly.
All right, thank you.
Just, Ms. Ronzio, if you would make note as the clerk to remind Mr. Winslow September or October or so that we can do this and not have to vote a calendar so late for next year. And thank you, Mr. Winslow, and the Policy Subcommittee for all your work on this. Any questions on this, Mr. Iavino?
In lieu of that, I would simply say that when the topic comes up for discussion, either at the end of September or October, that all of the parties who expressed an interest, and we here last time, be informed so that they can again be part of the dialogue and the decision-making process. I would certainly hope that would happen. Thank you.
And hopefully that's something Mr. Winslow can assist us on, or his Policy Subcommittee.
Right.
Not to throw all the work on you, but who better? Thank you. Any other questions on the calendar? Mr. Duffy.
Yes, I'd just like to strongly urge that we be inclusive in our subcommittee meetings and that we bring many of the parties together. I, too, like the superintendent, am wondering what the principle is behind the setting of the calendar. I know that we've added some of the holidays on this year. There were some that never left the calendar, but we made no allowances for Ramadan or Tet. We have the Chinese New Year on there, which is not a religious holiday, but we don't have any input on Kwanzaa. So I just think if we're going down the road where we're starting to put some back on there, we need to bring in as much input as possible, because we really shouldn't be in the middle. We should have all the holidays on there or none of them. And so I think the best way to come to a decision that really incorporates all of the input from the community members is to have them present. And I'm encouraged to hear that we're going to start this process in September, because obviously there is a lot of input that people want to give. And the public forum or the public comment here at the school committee is not the place for a dialogue, since it's so one way. The subcommittees are the place for that. So I'm heartened to hear that we'll be starting this process early and we'll be inclusive in that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Mr. Winslow, question. Is this something that you would feel comfortable on the policy doing, or would you like us to set up a subcommittee just on the future of religious holidays here in the district?
I think it's something that Policy Committee has handled, and I think we have with Mr. Duffy and Mr. Weldai and yourself. I think we have a good group of committee members who want to work and develop that principle and really hear from input. So I think I'm confident, and I think we're confident, unless the committee as a whole would feel differently. But I'm
no, it's as long as other committee members who are not on policy have a say in this, but they can relate that to the 4 members of the subcommittee. Great. We have
Motion to accept the 2010-2011 school calendar.
There's a motion made by Mr. Weldai to accept the 2010-2011 draft calendar that has been on file. I need a second by Mr. Casucci. Ms. Ronzio, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Casucci?
Yes.
Mrs. Crowe? Yes. Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Foyle?
Yes.
Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mr. Altrino?
Yes.
Mr. Weldai?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
The calendar passes. And I'm sure Ms. Ronzio is very happy to have a calendar. And to the public, we apologize. I know you're setting your vacations and back to school, and of course our staff. So we apologize, but we want to do things to make sure everyone's heard. The next item on the agenda is the approval of transfers. And what we're going to do is, Ms. Olive, if you would come to the podium before we tackle. But the ones that were in our packet, and there are a lot of them as towards the end of the year we try to clean up the budget. So the first one we'll take, Ms. Oliver, is questions on the larger packet where it states transfers TR 2010-067A. I believe these do not require school committee approval on this larger package, but does any member of the committee have a question on any of the transfers? A lot of it I see is transfers to either homeless transportation or private school collaborative special ed tuitions, which require some movement of funds. Anyone have a question? Ms. Crow, we'll start with you, please.
Thank you. Actually, just in the packet, it's not necessarily one of the transfers, but it's the scheduled payment details page. Not sure. Just from the controller's office. This was in the packet, too. I can give you that.
Okay. Towards the back?
And it just has, it's a note about the decreased funding by $4,837,000 due to potential 9C cuts. Now, is that something that we've already, because it's dated 3/31.
Oh, that's the circuit breaker.
Okay. So that goes back to the circuit breaker. So this is just sort of informational, not...
Correct.
All right, so there's not another additional, hopefully,
That's
$4
right.
million.
That's right. This is what I see when I look it on the vendor page. This is the actual payment coming in.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. Mr. Duffy. Mr. Iavino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Oliver, I'm making reference specifically to budget transfer request 2010-068, and it is to cover the salaries, reimburse preschool tuition. That said that we do not need to take any action. Our school committee doesn't need to take any action. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be. I thought that when salaries were involved, school committee had to approve the transfers, and I could be in error.
I'm trying to find the transfer that you're referring to.
It's from the holdover account to preschool tuitions. It says page 1 or 2 on the bottom. Oh, yeah. No, this one says 2 or 2.
Oh, these are grants.
Those are grants.
Yes.
Okay.
That doesn't require your approval.
Does not. Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you.
Any other questions on my left in regards to this larger packet? Okay. In regards to the next smaller package, which is dated May 3rd, 2010, your approval is requested for transfer TR 2010-074. It states $208,000 transfer to tuition collaborative. Please see attached spreadsheet. Does anyone have any questions before we vote to approve or not approve this transfer? Questions on Ms. Crow?
Sorry. Actually, the transfer has the transfer amount of $280,000, but then actually transferred to tuitions is $135,000. So that it's not an equal amount. Is there another? Oh, in the 140.
Go down another line item.
Okay.
It skips a line. Tuition privates.
Okay. Missed that piece.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All set, Ms. Crow?
Yes.
Any other questions? I will need a motion to... Excuse me, Lenny.
Oh, not on those.
Okay, yeah. I need a motion to approve this transfer. Motion made by Mr. Iavino.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Furio. All those in favor?
Aye.
And no one opposed. Opposed by Mr. Weldy. Okay. The last thing that was just put on our desks this evening before we left for executive session was a transfer for $1,276,170, and it says to see attached. Mr. Iovino, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
In view of the fact that this was on our table just when we got here and we have not had a prior time to look this over, I would simply move to table this until next week. We are meeting next week.
Is that a motion, Mr. Iovino?
It is a motion.
There's a motion. Before the motion, is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Smith? Ms. Oliver?
I just wanted to make you aware that the controller is overriding salaries right now, with the understanding that this is going to school committee this week. So I don't know how he'll handle it for for this coming week. Just to make you aware of that, that's all.
And when was this, Ms. Oliver, brought to your attention?
This is the stabilization funds that came in, so the money has just come in now, so we're offsetting where we had to shift the funding to cover payroll in the past. So we had to move swiftly on this.
I can withdraw that. I'll move to withdraw the motion, then I wasn't aware of what it was about. Okay. Thank you.
Since there are a lot of transfers, does anyone have any questions on these? I'm sorry for the timeliness of it. Mrs. Crow.
Sorry. If I read this right, is the first set of columns, which first, or is this all the money that we just got kind of going into these lines?
That's correct.
Okay.
The money's being...
So it's not, we're transferring from Director of Science into business manager.
That's right.
That's not a correlation. These are all being replenished.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And just actually to Mr. Smith, so this kind of is part of what some of the freeze was. We put a freeze on these to pay for the other things, and now these are being replenished.
Actually,
as much as
because the stabilization funds didn't come in, we're now basically paying the city back.
Okay.
Through using the stabilization funds to pay the city back for the funds we had to draw on to pay these folks until the funds came in.
Okay.
Mr. Iovino?
My question is that the accounts from which these are taken are not going to leave any other accounts short. Everything will balance.
Correct.
We're not going to be in...
This will take us to the end of the fiscal year.
This will take us, that's my question. Thank you.
Any questions to my left? So everyone understands the stabilization as Mr. Smith has made notion. Mr. Welda, you have a question.
I'm just still a bit confused. So none of what we're transferring out of is going to be affected by this, because I see a lot of line items on this that were specifically what the superintendent had mentioned we were keeping open, that we were saving money on. But it looks like we're transferring.
Right, but for example, you mean
the
item
science
that might be vacant? Right? Yeah. But the thing is that whether it's vacant or not, in our accounting, this was budgeted as to be covered by stabilization funds. So we need to make sure that we're made whole on the city side for any money that we may have borrowed, if you will, to cover the positions to date, whether they were filled or not. The money still needs, for the purposes of the ledger, to be moved to the proper accounting so that we close the books on both the city and the grant side at the end of the year. I don't believe so.
Ms. Oliver, there's approval required for this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions before we have a motion? Do we have a motion on the floor to accept? Ms. Crow made a motion to approve the transfer as written. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mr. Iovino. Oh, Mr. Duffy, excuse me. Do we have all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Yes.
Opposed by Mr. Weldy. Okay. Seems as though our docket is clear, so we'll take this time for personal privilege. We'll start to my right. Ms. Crow.
Two notes of thank yous. First, for the people that supported the YWCA in their online auction. It closed on Friday. We actually exceeded what we had expected to. The school department, actually, there was a lot of teachers that bid, and that was great to see, so thank you so much. And actually, thank you to everybody that came out to the 6th annual Mother's Day breakfast yesterday at the Eagles. Again, we had a bigger turnout than we really anticipated, but due to all the people that really supported, helped, cooked, Andy Frangiulo and Darius Carastinos, Carol Ann Desiderio, Councilor Christensen. It actually turned out to be a fabulous day, so I want to thank everybody for participating.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. Mr. Duffy.
Thank you. I would like to throw out a large congratulations to all the schools that participated in the Walk to School Day this past Wednesday, May 5th. It went off quite well. The attendance at all of the schools was higher than we've had in years past. I know firsthand at the BB we had over 60 participants, which was tremendous. We were really aided and abetted by great weather, but it was just a good kickoff to the event, and it worked out very well. A lot of the credit goes to school committee person Steve Winslow, and I'd also like to note that the national website, Safe Routes to School, picked up our press release and just lauded Steve just like I did. So congratulations to Steve and all of the participants as well as the organizers for each of the schools. Secondly, I'd just like to remind everyone about the Walk Malden kickoff on May 15th. It is the release of the Walk Malden map, but it is an event taking place Saturday at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We'll be meeting at Anthony's of Malden. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll be walking down along the river, crossing over the Medford Bridge, going down Commercial Street to the new 10-acre River's Edge Park, filled with walking paths. Along the way, we'll be hearing information about the Malden River from a historian, Nick Cohen from the Mystic River Watershed effort is going to be educating us on the efforts done around the river on Canal Street. And then Jeff Nangle, who has been involved with the River's Edge project for a number of years, is going to give us a lot of background on the industrial uses of the river and all the effort put in to reclaim not only the river, but make all of the walking paths down there. So as the weather gets better, and I know a lot of Maldonians are walkers, come down that day, you can pick up a great walking map of the city and learn about a lot of new routes that you can walk around and get some exercise. And lastly, I just want to remind everyone about the Larry Gilligan tribute on Friday, May 28th. It is being held at the Malden Moose. We have two terrific Malden comedians coming out. Larry's a longtime Malden resident, grew up in Edgeworth, was so touched by his educational experiences here in Malden that he became a teacher of his own. So we'll be turning out to support him, and I urge you to do the same as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Mr. Iavino.
I'm fine, thank you.
And over to my left, Mr. Weldy.
Just a couple quick notes. The Forestdale School PTO will be meeting this Wednesday morning at 8:30 a.m. In the Forestdale School cafeteria. That's this Wednesday, the 12th, at 8:30 in the morning in the cafeteria. A special thank you to all the people who not only came out and supported the Bullying Prevention Task Force at the forum, but also a very special thank you to all of the Malden Public Schools staff members who have been emailing back their comments and their questions and their ideas for the policy. We've gotten at least 75 staff members who wrote back with questions or ideas to change things. It was really really heartening to see that level of involvement. On that note, our last meeting will be this Thursday the 13th at 6 o'clock in the high school library. It's the last chance to come and talk about the draft before it's submitted to the school committee. It's this Thursday the 13th at 6 p.m. in the high school library.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Mr. Winslow.
Yeah, I too wanted to thank all the students and parents and school committee members who participated in Walk to School Day, as well as staff who helped out, many of the physical education teachers as well as principals, particularly Mr. Pons over at Salemwood, who I did meet up with and got a lot of support, and look forward to working on that program in the future with everybody. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow. Mr. Kasuchi. Mr. Fergal. Nothing from me, so we'll take a motion to adjourn by Mr. Weldy, seconded by Mr. Iavino. All those in favor? See you next Monday. Thank you.
I'd like to reconvene it.